Hello, everyone. Today we're going to learn another 10 common idioms, phrases, and sentences that native English speakers use every single day. These expressions are super useful, and I promise by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what these expressions mean and how to use them naturally in your own conversations. Here's how you can get the most out of this video. First, listen while reading the subtitles. This will help you catch every word and follow along more easily. Then, play the video again and try to repeat the sentences out loud, but this time without reading the subtitles. This will really help you improve your pronunciation, listening, and speaking skills. Don't forget to pause and write down any new idioms or phrases you like. That way, you can remember and review them later. This is a great way to boost your listening, reading, and speaking, all at the same time. This lesson is a fun and simple way to improve your English step by step. Before we dive in, if you're finding this helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps a ton, and I really appreciate your support. All right, let's get started with our first expression. Number 1, I'm not a pushover. This phrase is really important to know because it's about standing up for yourself. When someone says, I'm not a pushover, they mean they're not weak or easily controlled by other people. A pushover is someone who lets others walk all over them, someone who can't say no, someone who always gives in. But when you say, I'm not a pushover, you're showing that you have strength and you won't let people take advantage of you. I remember when my friend Sarah was working at a coffee shop, and her manager kept asking her to work extra hours without paying her overtime. At first, Sarah felt bad saying no because she wanted to be helpful. But after a few weeks, she realized this wasn't fair. One day, when her manager asked her to stay late again, Sarah said, I'm sorry, but I'm not a pushover. I need to be paid for the extra hours or I can't stay. Her manager was surprised, but he respected her more after that. For example, if your roommate always asks you to do their dishes, you might say, I'm not a pushover. You need to clean up after yourself. Here's another one. Imagine your friend always cancels plans at the last minute. You could tell them, I'm not a pushover. If you make plans with me, you need to keep them. People often say this when they want to set boundaries at work too, like I'm not a pushover. I won't work weekends unless it's really necessary. This phrase is perfect when you want to show that you respect yourself and won't let others treat you badly. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed to say this? Let me know in the comments how you would use this expression. Number 2, you worry too much. This is such a common sentence that you'll hear all the time in English. When someone says, you worry too much, they're telling another person that they're thinking about problems or bad things that might happen more than they should. It's like saying, relax, or don't stress so much about it. This sentence usually comes from a place of care. When people say this, they're trying to help someone feel better. Maybe your friend is nervous about a test, or your sister is scared about starting a new job, or your mom is worried about you traveling alone. When you say, you worry too much, you're trying to comfort them and help them see that things will probably be okay. I have a friend named Mike who always worries about everything. When he was planning his wedding, he was stressed about the weather, the food, the music, whether people would have fun, whether his suit looked good, everything. His wife-to-be kept telling him, Mike, you worry too much. Everything will be perfect. And you know what? She was right. The wedding was beautiful and all his worrying was for nothing. For example, if your friend is nervous about a job interview, you might say, you worry too much. You're going to do great. You might hear something like, don't think about what could go wrong. You worry too much and it's not helping you. Let's take this one. If someone is scared about moving to a new city, you could say, "You worry too much. Moving will be an adventure and you'll make new friends." This sentence is so useful because it shows you care about someone and want them to feel more relaxed. Do you think you worry too much about things? Or do you know someone who does? Tell me in the comments. Number 3, don't flatter yourself. Oh, this phrase is interesting. When someone says, "don't flatter yourself," they're telling another person not to think too highly of themselves. It's like saying, "don't be so full of yourself," or "you're not as special as you think you are." It might sound a little mean, but sometimes it's said in a playful way between friends. To flatter someone means to say nice things about them, often to make them feel good or to get something from them. So when you flatter yourself, you're basically giving yourself too many compliments or thinking you're more important than you really are. This phrase is used when someone is being a bit too proud or assuming things about themselves that aren't true. I remember in high school, there was this guy named Brad who thought every girl had a crush on him. One day, he saw a girl looking in his direction during lunch, and he said, "I bet she likes me. Girls always stare at me because I'm so good looking." His friend immediately said, "Don't flatter yourself, Brad. She's looking at the clock on the wall behind you." It was pretty funny, and Brad learned not to be so full of himself. For example, if someone says, "I bet everyone at the party was talking about how cool I am," you might respond, "Don't flatter yourself. People have other things to talk about." Here's another one. Imagine someone says, "My boss probably gave me this project because I'm his favorite employee." You could say, "Don't flatter yourself. He gave it to you because everyone else was busy." People often say this when someone assumes they're the reason for something good. Don't flatter yourself. The restaurant wasn't busy because of you. It's just a Tuesday night. This phrase is perfect for bringing someone back down to earth when they're getting a big head. Have you ever met someone who needed to hear this? Let me know in the comments. Number 4, I'm really proud of you. This is such a beautiful and warm sentence. When someone says, "I'm really proud of you," they're expressing how happy and impressed they are with something you did or achieved. It's one of the most encouraging things you can say to someone, and it makes people feel valued and appreciated. You'll hear this sentence a lot between family members, friends, teachers, students, or even coworkers. It's usually said when someone has worked hard, overcome a challenge, or achieved something important. The word proud here means you feel happy and satisfied about someone else's success, like their success is your success too. I'll never forget when I finally learned to drive. I was so nervous about taking my driving test because I had failed it once before. But I practiced every day for weeks, and when I finally passed, my dad was waiting for me outside the DMV. The first thing he said was, "I'm really proud of you. You worked so hard for this." It made me feel so good, and I still remember that moment years later. For example, when your friend graduates from college, you might say, "I'm really proud of you. You never gave up, even when it was hard." You might hear something like this from a parent, "I'm really proud of you for standing up to that bully at school." Let's take this one. If your coworker gets a promotion, you could say, "I'm really proud of you. You deserve this after all your hard work." This sentence is so powerful because it shows love and support. It tells someone that you notice their effort and that you care about their success. When was the last time someone said this to you? Or when did you last say it to someone else? Share your story in the comments. Number 5. Kill two birds with one stone. This is a classic idiom that native speakers use all the time. When someone says, kill two birds with one stone, they mean to solve two problems or complete two tasks with one action. It's about being efficient and smart with your time and energy. Now, I know the idiom sounds a bit violent because it mentions killing birds, but don't worry. Nobody is actually hurting any animals. This is just an old expression that means to accomplish two things at once. It's all about being clever and finding ways to do multiple things with one solution. The idea comes from the old days when people actually used stones to hunt birds. If you could hit two birds with just one stone, that would be very skillful and efficient. Today, we use this idiom to talk about any situation where we can accomplish two goals with one action. My sister is a great example of this. She wanted to get more exercise, and she also wanted to spend more time with her dog. Instead of going to the gym and then walking the dog separately, she decided to go jogging with her dog every morning. She told me, "This is perfect. I can kill two birds with one stone. I get my workout and my dog gets his exercise too." It was such a smart solution. For example, if you need to buy groceries and also want to meet your friend, you might say, "Let's meet at the grocery store." We can kill two birds with one stone. You might hear something like, "I'll study for my English test while I'm on the bus to work. I can kill two birds with one stone." Here's another one. "I'll call my mom while I'm doing the dishes. That way I can kill two birds with one stone." This idiom is super useful in daily life because we're all busy and want to be more efficient. Can you think of a time when you killed two birds with one stone? Let me know in the comments. Number 6. What do we do in the meantime? This is such a practical sentence that you'll use and hear constantly. When someone asks, "What do we do in the meantime?" they're asking about what to do while waiting for something else to happen. In the meantime means while we're waiting or during this time period. This sentence comes up in so many situations. Maybe you're waiting for a friend to arrive, or waiting for your car to be fixed, or waiting for test results, or waiting for a package to be delivered. During all these waiting periods, you need to figure out what to do with your time. I remember when my family was renovating our kitchen. The workers said it would take 2 weeks to finish, but we still needed to eat during those 2 weeks. My mom asked, "What do we do in the meantime? We can't cook without a kitchen." So we made a plan. We would eat out a few times, order food for delivery, and use the microwave in the living room for simple meals. We had to be creative during that waiting period. For example, if your computer is being repaired and you need it for work, you might ask, "What do we do in the meantime? How can I finish this project?" You might hear something like, "The concert doesn't start for 2 hours. What do we do in the meantime? Should we get some coffee?" People often say this when making plans. "My flight is delayed until tomorrow morning. What do I do in the meantime? I guess I need to find a hotel." This sentence is perfect when you're dealing with unexpected waiting periods or when you're planning ahead. It shows you're thinking practically about how to use your time. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to ask this question? Tell me about it in the comments. Number 7. You should make up with him. This phrase is all about fixing relationships and ending arguments. When someone says, "You should make up with him," they're suggesting that you should apologize, forgive, or find a way to be friends again with someone you've been fighting with. Make up in this context means to resolve a conflict and become friends again. This phrase is really common because, let's be honest, people argue sometimes. Friends disagree, family members get upset with each other, couples have fights, and coworkers sometimes don't get along. But most of the time, these relationships are worth saving. When someone says, "You should make up with him," they're usually trying to help you see that the relationship is more important than whatever you were fighting about. I have a friend named Lisa who had a huge fight with her sister over something really silly. They were planning their mom's birthday party, and they couldn't agree on where to have it. They both got so angry that they stopped talking to each other for weeks. Finally, I told Lisa, "You should make up with her. Your mom's birthday is next week, and she'll be sad if you two are fighting." Lisa realized I was right, so she called her sister and apologized. They made up, and the birthday party was wonderful. For example, if your friend is mad at their roommate over dirty dishes, you might say, "You should make up with him. Living together is hard when you're not talking." You might hear something like, "I know you're angry, but you should make up with him. He's been your best friend for years." Let's take this one. If two coworkers had an argument, their boss might say, "You should make up with him. We all need to work together as a team." This phrase shows that you care about someone's relationships and want them to be happy. Life is too short to stay angry at people we care about. Have you ever had to make up with someone after a fight? How did it go? Share your experience in the comments. Number 8, the tide is turning. This is such a powerful and poetic idiom. When someone says the tide is turning, they mean that a situation is changing, usually for the better. It's like saying, things are improving, or the situation is getting better. This idiom comes from the ocean. If you've ever been to the beach, you know that the tide comes in and goes out twice a day. When the tide is low, there's more beach and less water. When the tide is high, there's less beach and more water. The moment when the tide starts to change direction is called the turning of the tide. So when we say the tide is turning, we're using this ocean image to talk about any situation that's starting to change. You'll often hear this idiom when talking about difficult situations that are finally getting better. Maybe someone was sick for a long time, or a business was losing money, or a sports team was losing games. When things start to improve, people say, the tide is turning. I remember when my uncle's small restaurant was struggling. For months, he wasn't getting enough customers, and he was worried he might have to close. But then a food blogger wrote a great review about his restaurant, and suddenly more people started coming. Within a few weeks, the restaurant was busy every night. My uncle was so happy, and he said, "I think the tide is turning. Things are finally looking up." For example, if your friend has been looking for a job for months and finally gets some interviews, you might say, "It sounds like the tide is turning." These interviews are a good sign. You might hear something like, "Our team lost the first 5 games, but now we've won 3 in a row. The tide is turning." Here's another one. "She's been sad since her breakup, but she's starting to smile again. I think the tide is turning." This idiom is beautiful because it gives hope. It reminds us that difficult times don't last forever, and that change is always possible. Have you ever felt like the tide was turning in your life? Tell me about it in the comments. Number 9, I'll get even. This phrase is about revenge and getting back at someone who hurt you. When someone says, "I'll get even," they mean they're planning to do something to hurt or punish the person who hurt them first. It's like saying, "I'll get you back," or "I'll make you pay for what you did." To get even means to balance the scales, to make things fair by returning the same kind of treatment you received. If someone was mean to you, getting even would mean being mean back to them. If someone played a trick on you, getting even might mean playing a trick back on them. Now, I have to be careful when I explain this phrase because getting revenge isn't always the best choice. Sometimes it's better to forgive and move on. But this phrase is very common in English, so you need to understand what it means when you hear it. I remember when I was in middle school, there was this boy who kept pulling my hair during class. It was so annoying. I told my older brother about it and he said, "Don't worry, I'll get even with him." The next day, my brother put a "kick me" sign on the boy's back, and everyone in the hallway kept tapping him on the shoulder. The boy was so confused. He never bothered me again after that. For example, if someone spreads rumors about you, you might think, "I'll get even. I'll tell everyone what I know about them." You might hear something like, "He embarrassed me in front of everyone. I'll get even someday." People often say this when they're angry. "She got the promotion I deserved. I'll get even by working harder and proving I'm better." This phrase shows strong emotions like anger and the desire for justice. But remember, getting even doesn't always make you feel better, and it can sometimes make problems worse. Have you ever wanted to get even with someone? What happened? Let me know in the comments. Number 10, leave me alone. This is probably one of the most important phrases to know because it's about setting boundaries and asking for space. When someone says, "Leave me alone," they're telling another person to go away and stop bothering them. It's a way of saying, "I don't want to talk to you right now," or "I need some space." This phrase can be said in different ways depending on the situation. Sometimes it's said firmly but politely when you just need some quiet time. Other times, it might be said more strongly when someone is really bothering you and won't stop. The tone of voice makes a big difference in how this phrase sounds. People say, "Leave me alone," for many reasons. Maybe they're stressed and need time to think. Maybe they're upset about something and don't want to talk about it. Maybe someone is bothering them and they want that person to stop. Maybe they just want some peace and quiet to relax or work on something. I remember when I was studying for my final exams in college. I was so stressed, and I had locked myself in my room to study. My roommate kept knocking on my door, asking if I wanted to watch TV or get pizza. Finally, I opened the door and said, "I'm sorry, but I really need you to leave me alone right now. I have to focus on studying." She understood and gave me the space I needed. For example, if your little brother keeps interrupting you while you're on the phone, you might say, "Please leave me alone. I'm trying to have a conversation." You might hear something like, "I'm not feeling well today. Can you just leave me alone for a while?" Here's another one. If someone at work keeps asking you questions when you're trying to concentrate, you could say, "I need to finish this project. Please leave me alone until I'm done." This phrase is essential for taking care of yourself and your mental health. Everyone needs alone time sometimes, and it's okay to ask for it. When was the last time you needed to say this to someone? Or when did someone say it to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's recap what we learned today. We covered 10 amazing expressions that native English speakers use every single day. We learned about standing up for yourself with "I'm not a pushover," helping others relax with "You worry too much," and bringing someone back down to earth with "Don't flatter yourself." We talked about showing support with "I'm really proud of you," being efficient with "Kill two birds with one stone," and planning during waiting periods with "What do we do in the meantime?" We also explored fixing relationships with "You should make up with him," recognizing positive changes with "The tide is turning," dealing with revenge feelings with "I'll get even," and setting boundaries with "Leave me alone." These expressions are so useful because they help you sound more natural and native-like when you speak English. They're the kinds of things you'll hear in movies, TV shows, conversations with friends, and everyday situations. The more you practice using them, the more confident you'll become in your English conversations. I hope this lesson was helpful for you. If you enjoyed learning these expressions, please hit that like button and subscribe for more English lessons. I post new videos with 10 more idioms, phrases, and sentences every day, so there's always something new to learn. Which of these 10 expressions was your favorite today? Which one do you think you'll use most in your daily life? And most importantly, which situations in your own life remind you of these expressions? I love reading your comments and hearing about your English learning journey, so please share your thoughts below. Take care and keep practicing your English. I'll see you tomorrow for 10 more amazing expressions that will help you sound even more like a native speaker. Until then, keep learning and don't be afraid to use these new expressions in your conversations. You've got this.